Happy Thursday, Smite fans. It is not a Dulcin and a Gore desk unless we come back from break maniacally laughing about something.
That's not even like coming back from break. That was the start.
Yeah, it's the start of the day, and we're already off to this start, and I'm already making production switch around. I'm sorry, guys. Welcome back to the North American SEC qualifiers, and today are the qualifiers. This is the next round of the winners bracket. All four best of three sets today will qualify some teams into the North American SEC, but the journey does not end for those who lose. Still some sets later on for the losing teams here, Gore. So, going to qualify some teams today to the SEC.
Why did you even ask me if it's St. Patrick's Day if you're not going to use it for the opening? I'm wearing green.
Gore, there was so much chaos leading into that. You're telling me about Grandma Irish and
yeah, my brother-in-law has a grandmother who's from Ireland.
Yeah,
I think she lives in like Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I'm not wearing green today.
I can't. You're pretty far away.
Give me an air pinch.
Yeah.
How do you? No. How was it? No. We're at start of the day production. I'm sorry. We'll keep things on track. Weird. 30 seconds into our show. We'll
and
keep
this
things
is why.
Let's look at the schedule for today before Gore and I completely go.
Maybe
off the
this
rails.
is why we're never scheduled together. I was thinking this is the first cast
You
meeting you've
make
had in
the
a long
schedule.
time.
VAMPS versus Great Gentlemen will be the first matchup we've got today. Sturdy Artisans versus Leoncitos. That'll be a fun one. That's our second matchup of today. A lot of fan favorite names during matchup number 2. Samsara versus Funhavers, a couple SPL qualifier teams that have not matched up against one another just yet. And then Lean Into It versus Sops Time will be our fourth and final set of the day. And reminder that all four of those sets will be qualifier matches. So
yeah, baby.
The left side of your screen looking nice and clean here. One of the teams from each of those four matchups will just be done. They can kind of dust off their hands and realize that their SEC year has officially started with a win here today. Now, if you are one of the losers of this matchup, no worries. You'll drop down to losers round number 2, and then the winners of our matches a little bit later on in the weekend will end up playing those teams. So, 4 teams qualify today, Gore, and then later on, 2 more teams will qualify from that lower side of the bracket. But obviously, if you're one of these teams that's playing today, not having to worry about a loser's bracket run, just kind of washing your hands with the SEC and the qualifiers and officially starting off your year, so important for these teams. And Gore, I think you look at this VAMPS roster, maybe the favorites just overall here in North America, and that's saying something with a lot of very stacked talent, and one of the favorites for sure, if not the favorite. This is Remakami, Oath, Crimson, Quig, Dude Man Bro. I mean, this is a team that's played together.
Yeah.
A couple new additions to this roster, of course, but a lot of names that have been very, very popular at the SEC level. And over the years, a couple names on this roster have been talked about as maybe like the next up in the SPL should some spots open up.
Yeah, I think, and I love that this starts with a Dude Man Bro highlight because this dude is just absolutely insane.
Man, bro.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the thing that was fun to watch, right? He showed up, what was it, the LAN at the end of last year, and everyone's like, all right, so if you had to, you open up any conversation about the SEC players, and you had to choose any one person in that listing of who was going to pop off at LAN, no one would have said the guy whose name is Dude Man Bro 429. Like, he's not going to be in the top 10 on that list, and yet there he was showing up, and a great performance from him. Obviously, him and Quig go together incredibly well from what we've seen. Oath, I think, is a fantastic jungler, but it is, in fact, Crimson on my mind that I think, that you're hearkening to, someone who's a little new, I believe, to this roster specifically. We got to watch last week there for in VAMPS as well, but in terms of this year, like, Crimson has always been one of the top mid laners that we've gotten to see.
Yep.
And so going into this team that has a really accomplished duo lane, that has a really good solo laner, really good jungler, it just feels like they have formed the SEC equivalent of a super team. And it was a real pleasure to get to watch them play last week. I think that this is going to be another set where they get to show off and maybe flex a little bit of why they are a lot of the top talent that we remember. Yeah,
I feel like Crimson, when I talk about names that over the last couple of years have been thrown out as like the next up going into the SPL.
On that list.
Like Crim is always one, if a mid lane spot could be there, who would fill it? Yeah. Crim always feels like a name that gets thrown into that conversation. So VAMP's definitely the favorite in this specific matchup, but the Great Gentlemen, not a team to scoff at all. This is Snatty, Sada Dragon, Tripno, Monster Bomber, and Hydrogen. Yeah, you don't want to be scoffing at any gentleman. That's not very gentlemanlike. But a team
they will challenge you to a duel. Factually, gentlemen can do that.
They will.
They'll like hit you with their glove.
And if it's a Smite duel, they're a pretty good team at doing that too.
I don't want to be involved in any duel, bullets or otherwise, realistically. But the one-on-ones here I think are really interesting because, like you said, you look at what this team has to bring. Snatty is a wildly accomplished solo laner who has been around for a long time. Hydrogen, Monster Bomber really do work together well as a duo lane, which I think is going to be necessary. Monster Bomber has been phenomenal over there as a support player, but like if you're going up against Quig and Dude Man, bro, you need control in the duo lane early on, or else they're going to get out of hand. And I think that Seder Dragon there in the jungle was also, again, just a treat to watch throughout all of last week, and I think opens up a lot of interesting plays for this team and interesting gods for this team. So it's going to be fun to see how they handle it. They also had some wins where, you can even see it here. Sometimes they weren't necessarily in the lead, but then they were able to pull the lead over into their favor. So having that experience of playing from behind and being successful, having the experience from playing from ahead and successful, from what we've seen just in the week they played, I think is going to make things a lot more interesting in this one, because I think VAMPS can easily find themselves in similar positions throughout all of that. I think it's going to be a fun matchup. And again, a lot of talent stacked on this roster. I won't be surprised if you told me right now that this is one that we'd be watching throughout at least the first phase, 2 phases, however long of SCC.
Yeah, I feel that way with almost all. With
pretty much all of them.
4 of our matchups today, you know what I mean? Like our second matchup of the day, which we won't really sink into yet, that feels like 2 teams who are poised to qualify in. They just happen to meet up against one another in this round. There's another one, I agree, that's just stacked with talent. Feels like both of these teams deserve a spot in the North American Smite Challenger circuit. Only one of them will confirm their spot after this best of 3 set. That being said, Gore, I like that you highlight the duo lane here. I also think mid lane is going to be highly competitive here in this set. Both junglers are going to have to keep their eyes there because for all the reasons that we bring up Crim, you want to shut down Crim early on. On the flip side, Gore, I think I look at the Great Gentleman and Tripno had a great set the first time that we saw these 2 teams play. So I think the mid lane will end up drawing some eyes, whether it's in mid lane picks and bans, which we'll jump into right now for game 1, or whether it's in jungle pressure in game as the game ends up going on. But the VAMPS will be in the first pick slot here. The Great Gentlemen find themselves in the second pick slot. Expect a Daji ban, I guess, against the VAMPS here 100% of the time. Fenrir, Persephone, also 100% ban. Only seen 1 set with this team, but those 3 were the popular bans up against this squad. That also kind of mirrors some of the meta here, Gore. I think Fenrir has been wildly banned out just kind of across the board. Serket obviously has received a lot of pressure in the ban column as well. But some unique twists thrown in there. We get an Agni ban on one side and then an ESET ban on the other, so maybe privy to some pocket picks.
After watching every game last week, I never would have called those top 2 bans. Every single thing that we saw did not indicate either of those 2 being at the forefront of your minds. But like you said, it showcases something that you come to expect. I do think Agni right now is in a very interesting spot. We've seen him a little more often the last couple of weeks. He does good CCs, got good damage, makes sense to try and get rid of him, especially if you have an adept Agni player on the other side. A lot of mid laners can bring him in and play him well, but the people that make him look excellent really are devastating and really something that you have to worry about. ESET's wild because she could technically still be support. Like if this was Sturdy Artisans, I'm talking about Sino playing her in the jungle. But here, it's this mid matchup. I think Crimson can make her look really good. I think it's something that you have to be worried about potentially coming out from Quig. So again, a very, very good ban, even though it might seem a little outlandish. Everything else falls into meta from what we've seen.
Yeah, agreed. Every once in a while, I'll talk about something that might be important in picks and bans, and this time I said mid lane. And look at that, Thoth!
Yeah.
The first one picked. That's something we saw a lot of highlights on from Tripno when you're looking at the Great Gentleman, their highlight reel. These artillery control mages, really in the SEC qualifiers, haven't seen anything else as far as competitive Smite goes recently, but in the SEC qualifiers, these long-range control style mages have been so important. They work with flat pen very well, and Gore Thoth, at the top of the list in a set with Tripno, who's looked good on this pick, and also Crimson, who can take over games. I think no surprise.
Yeah, I think that Thoth, just in general, has been a top pick. Maybe not number one throughout every single time we've seen it, but I think every reason you list there, right? It is essentially a fourth ban up against the Great Gentleman, making sure that they don't get this Thoth. It's a great pick for Crimson. We've seen him make some really disgusting plays with this god, so a lot that really goes into that. Granted, there's a Nemesis on the other side, so someone who can stick to him relatively well, chase him down, slow him down, and find that kill early on. So at least some sort of counter pressure, but that gets alleviated. We've seen a lot of Bastet solo, so I don't want to like put all my eggs in the basket that this is going into jungle, but even if it is jungle, that's a lot of damage to then at least take some stress off of Thoth. He can fire from far away. If he gets a good disengage, and then you've got a Bastet for peel, even though it's not like the standard peel, it's not hard CC, it's just damage, it's still enough to keep you alive.
I would argue even if it's a solo lane Bastet, there's going to be plenty of damage just based on like, regardless of where it goes, the damage conversation is there, because I don't think in all the games that we've seen Bastet solo, it's been built as a solo laner even once. I think Bastet damage from what we've quoted some of the solo laners is the only way to do it. It's damage or bust when it comes to Bastet out of the solo lane. Heimdall and Daji end up getting banned, so one of those 100% bans against the Vamps remains the same. And then Heimdall starting to focus out Dude Man Bro a little bit towards the end of this draft. Heimdall is something that Dude Man Bro has made plays on in the past. So let's just take something away that can swing for the Star ADC. Medusa, though, Gore, still left on the table. And Medusa with a 77% win rate.
Yeah, she's been doing well.
Across a 76% pick rate. Maybe the highest performing ADC in the meta at the moment.
Yeah, honestly, I think she's been doing like super well. Yeah, especially compared to that. What is that? 14%? Yikes, dude. That is. I mean, that's Hou-Yi numbers from last year, right? It is not great for you in this kind of position, and that's where we've been seeing a lot of it. I mean, you know, it hasn't even been like the Izanami's fault. You know, you get good lane pressure, you've got decent damage. Dark Portal's a good ult. It's just that, you know, when you're bringing in what we've seen out of some of the Medusa plays. I'm thinking back to, I think it was Sunday last week, where I think we might have seen some of the best Medusa plays I've ever had the pleasure of watching. I mean, it was steals, it was stuns, it was things that should not be happening in competitive play, but still all going well for them. I think this is a really good draft for Great Gentlemen. I mean, looking at, like, especially with the Nike to close it out, you've got good backline dive. Bacchus is aggressive alongside the Medusa, so they're online early. They're not necessarily going to lose outright from the pressure. I hate to say this, I can't remember who it is, and I feel bad about it, but I know someone on Twitter has been memeing Yamoja's ult timer. And, like, here's a list of things I can do. I think it's like 140, maybe it's 120 seconds. I can't remember. But, like, how long
things I can do, right?
And it's, like, things I can do in the time it would take for that to come up. And, like, one of them was, like, I can Odin Cage twice before Yamoja gets her ult once. Things like that. And it's just that weird area. She gives a lot of pressure alongside Izanami. When it comes to minion kills, they're going to push out no problem. When it comes to fighting, there's a Bacchus and Medusa on the other side. I don't want to fight into that.
Yeah, there's plenty of pressure pushing back against this Vamps duo lane. Game number 1 between the Vamps and the Great Gentlemen. Winner of this best of 3 qualifies to the North American SEC. Loser goes down to the losers bracket. So no one goes home, but somebody does go on as the Vamps and the Great Gentlemen meet on the battleground for game number 1. Gore, it is Bastet solo, as we figured. I wonder, though, with the Erlang Shen jungle pick, because I feel like every so often we'll get this Bastet solo locked in.
Yeah.
And usually the jungle pick that's paired with it likes to build a little more tanky, right? So you're not completely losing a tanky member of your team. Do you think Erlang Shen has that availability, or are we looking at Quig as maybe just carrying the torch for the tank up against a whole lot of dive?
I will not be surprised if Quig is the only one. Like, I think Oath is probably going to have a little bit of hybrid in there, right? Like, he's not necessarily, I don't think he's going to go hard tank items, but I won't be surprised if he gets something, you know, I'm throwing out Spirit Robe just because it's the first one that came to mind. There's not a crazy amount of CC that he'd need something like that for, but, like, you know, something that's going to give both, you know, Fizz and magical prots. Potentially, if he's getting hard bullied by, like, an individual on the other side, like if Tripno's just doing absolute nuts damage, then yeah, maybe you go for a magic protection. But I'd say the same thing about Rimakami, because we've seen that a little bit more often from these Bastets. Like early on, I'm going to hit 1, 2, 3 items to make sure that I can do a lot of power. And then I'm going to go ahead and build like a Shogun's Kusari just for funsies and see what I can do in terms of staying alive and keeping myself protected.
You talked about early clear. That's there for the VAMPS duo lane. Quig and Dude Man Bro able to steal away the Harpy on the left side of the map, but stealing away a kill on right could be Oath. No, the up-down from Snatty. Enough to peel out. That said, that's what you want from Oath early on. You get this Erlong Shen, you get Mannequin Scepter. You feel like you probably can win a trade over on right, especially you get some damage from Bastet as well. It's effectively a double jungle start here. So if enough of this damage connects, could start to take over the lane. This is just the way the meta's been here, Gore, hasn't it? It feels like it's just been a double duo lane meta. Nice stun from Quig onto Hydrogen. But it was like junglers and solo laners have been going toe-to-toe with junglers and solo laners, and we've got 2 duo lanes on either side.
Yeah, I've been hanging out with a 2-on-2 again. It's not something that we've gotten literally since like alpha, maybe technically before that.
Right.
Yeah, something that is wild. But you know, you mentioned it. I can't think of 2 people I want to try and box against at level 2 less than specifically an Erlong.
Got a kill here, right? One more auto, Mannequin Scepter burn, and that's first blood. Dude Man Bro lives on left as well. So the Vamps able to get away with one and keep their duo lane alive. So massive advantage now for the Vamps, especially Oathgore. You know, I shouted out Quig as someone who has, or Crimson rather, as somebody who has received a lot of, you know, mid lane eyes when in the conversation of next generation of SPL players. I think Oath, as far as next generation of SPL junglers, has also started to receive a little bit of love here as of late. And so no surprise, you give a playmaking style pick like an early Erlong Shen over to Oath, and Oath is able to grab first blood. Blue buff coming back up, Snatty push beneath tower. Should be simple here for the Vamps.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy aggression for them. This is going to be more interesting, though. Crimson's rotated over. This could be a huge fight.
Should be. Beads used. Hydrogen will not be rooted. Hydrogen goes back in, but it's a nice double belly flop from Monster Bomber. Not nice enough. And Hydrogen does end up going down, but a bit on the wrong side of the jungle, so back in is also the same direction he had to go to get out. In an awkward position there, and the Vamps were able to capitalize.
That's just a good early rotation from Crimson, right? Like, I think if you are going into that fight, or at least just going around the purple buff, it's probably going to be an equal boxing match. You steal away the purple, maybe get some damage, maybe you take too much damage, but at the end of the day, nothing big happens. That mid-rotation turns that into a kill.
Monster Bomber, belly flops in yet again. Looks like purple buff is going to get dropped here. Watch out, way behind this rotation was Sada Dragon, but the Nem will not find that target over on the other end. And Gore, I think you compare jungler to jungler here. Not so much player, but jungle style of pick with the Erlong Shen on one side, the Nem on the other.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. You know, you worry about how Krim is going to be stuck on by Sada Dragon on this Nem, if Dude Man Bro is going to suffer a similar fate, things like that. But also now, depending on how Oath builds, if Quig is kind of the one tank as this game goes on, this is very dependent on, again, on builds and how the game goes. But if that Nem ult connects onto Twig, you know, there's a lot of shred in that. Could be looking at a 0 tank comp for the Vamps, but it might not matter if this continues to happen. If Oath continues to make plays, it's another one for the Erlong Shen right at level 5.
That's about as clean-cut a gank as you get. He shows up, he drops the taunt, he gets the kill, he leaves. There's a rotation coming out. I mean, both the Nemesis and this Persephone are making their way to the dual lane. There's nothing to do about it. Oath just gets the kill too quickly. Too much damage from the Vamps in such a short amount of time. And I think that this is the kind of lead. I mean, this is a composition, especially as you've highlighted. If they don't go for a tankier build, this is the kind of composition that just will roll over you. It will get ahead, and then it will continue to fight from ahead and win every single time. I think there's a lot of fun comeback potential. I keep looking. Hydrogen, unfortunately, he's 0-2 and 0, but that's where my mind goes, especially up against specifically where Yemoja's at right now. There's some anti-heal built into this kit, right? So Medusa's going to be able to apply that with the acid spray pretty easily. Theoretically, Tripno is going to go for something like a Divine Ruin, like we already see there for Crimson. It's going to have good pin early online. Yeah, there it is online already for him, and that anti-heal is just going to be helpful in these team fights, especially dealing with the Erlong healing on top of all that. So realistically, I think Great Gentlemen are in the worst portion of this game for their comp to do what it wants to do. Whereas VAMPS, this is maybe the strongest portion. Like, Thoth is going to get incredibly strong. Quig's going to be able to do a little bit more as the game goes on, and absolutely same thing for the Izanami. But when I'm looking at Bastet, and specifically when I'm looking at this Erlong, this is where they're going to thrive compared to like the Nemesis and the Persephone on the other side.
Yeah, this is when this should be happening. This is right on time for the VAMPS. And a lot of damage out from Remakami. Why is that? It's a Soul Eater first with a Bluestone on the Bastet. And so Snatty and that not yet completed back is feeling a little bit of the pain.
Jeez.
And put into a cage as Remakami finds the first kill on the right side of the map. Oath is on just an absolute world tour here, Corey. He's bought the All Parks Pass and is taking a trip to every single one of these lanes. Every single lane has been impacted at this point, at some point, by Oath. And a 4-0 start translates to the entire map now for the VAMPS.
I'm more frightened with how quickly and easily they are CCing everybody, right? It's one of those things, you can't all have beats, 3 of you do, and yet still, Oath has been able to get 2 incredibly large taunts. One onto Snatty, so admittedly someone without the CC immunity available, but you know, with Hydrogen having to use theirs in other scenarios, it's just been unfortunate.
Krim channels out the final judgment as a jump in, doesn't do much for Monster Bomber. Ult from Tripno doesn't do much either. Dude Man Bro takes the ultimate from Sada Dragon. Tier 1 tower dive happening. Clap not good enough. Tier 1 tower is good enough, and Dude Man Bro trades out the kill on a 2-man dive. But here comes Oath. The player's been making it happen all game long, and there's another killing spree for the Erlong Shen. And kind of goes from bad to worse here for the great gentleman. Quig locks him in place, and another one as Oath grabs a double. It's a wonderful play from the support, but the kills are all there for the Erlong Shen.
I mean, there's so many things to highlight. First off, really good play from Dude Man Bro to just turn around, get that damage, like, and maybe unsure whether or not that kill is going to actually come through from, that was close as well here from Remakami, but unsure whether or not that kill is going to come through from just the tower damage. But because of where Nemesis was at to get that kill, you're going to have to run through their jungle in order to get away. So very easy for the team to collapse and get that kill. Luckily, it gets turned around. They don't have to focus on the tower anymore. They can instead turn their attention to Hydrogen. And then, you know, it's a very easy kill, knock up, control from Oath. I was watching the timer on the ult to see if that diamond was going to fill up and if that taunt was going to be available. They didn't even need it. Quig throws out those walls.
No.
Doesn't matter. It's a 140-second cooldown. You're not going to see them again for a long time. But it is like pixel perfect, it feels like, in blocking off Persephone from walking away there. And that just sets them up for so much more. That was just a beautiful gank on the duo lane. An unfortunate turnaround for Great Gentlemen where things looked like they started out really well with that 2v1 and then just fell apart.
3.5k in the experience, gold rather, 4.5k in the experience. I mean, this is the script you write when you talk about an Erlong Shen early game. So, you know, if you ever hear us saying you want the Erlong Shen to get active early, you've got Mana Concept, you're going into the Crusher, there's an early power spike. Obviously, not every single game you're going to be 4-0-1 at 8.5 minutes. Obviously, every single game you can't get your team off to a 7-1 start. This is like the ideal scenario, right? Like, this is the story you write when you talk about this. Monster Bomber gonna have to belly flop away. Quig in on the chase. Final Judgment no good. Might have made things interesting had that damage connected. Remakami rotating over. Fully stacked up Soul Eater. Means that Snatty is gonna take a chunk of damage. Also means, though, that Remakami will take some damage in return.
With Oath? I don't know. Oath hanging around the way they are just makes things so awkward. This red buff does not feel safe in and of itself. Quig wants to get aggressive. But this is where things really do make a big difference. The solo laners are gone, which I think brings everything back to an equal position, but Oath goes in.
Oath goes in, and why wouldn't he? When the game is going this way, 5-0 Rampage met at 9.5 minutes for this VAMPS team. Purple buff's about to come back up. Gold Fury is on the other side as well. Dude Man Bro is full HP, has Crusher, has ultimate. Sada Dragon's in behind, but are you going to win this trade anyway? Dude Man Bro says no. It's a River's Rebuke up from Quig as Tripno and Monster Bomber are funneled back beneath the Tier 1 tower. And I think now Sada Dragon has to think twice about dropping that ult onto Dude Man Bro and where it goes. And as if there wasn't enough salt in the wound, Quig will steal away the purple buff anyway.
I think that was a good Dark Portal as well from Dude Man Bro. Like little things that just disengage from that team. And like you said, showcasing that amount of strength. The glorious side is, and this is the point I was going to try and make earlier. We saw that fight. There's one tank, 3 carries, all just kind of conjoined around a red buff, and it doesn't go the way Great Gentleman won. Snatty has to, I was going to say, Snatty has to live in scenarios like this, because Snatty, you're the guy I'm trying to talk about, which is the difference maker for this team when it comes to team fights. Rimikami is a great backline diver, is going to be able to jump onto Tripno, jump onto Hydrogen, give them hell alongside Oath, and plus, when you look at the range that Thoth has, yeah, they're going to be getting hit, right? The backliners from Great Gentlemen aren't going to have a good time. Snatty's going to be able to do something similar, except Snatty can give a huge team-wide slow, has the teleport online now, so can really just rotate whenever, and realistically...
Oh my god.
That's just gone.
Everything that Oath touches turns to gold at the moment, or turns to
I'm worried. I'm trying to say Snatty's going to be a difference maker. What if that just happens to him?
Yeah, Gore, I mean, you're right in the sense that, like, this Nike can build up some tanky. I mean, all your points are correct. But I'm nervous that the game is going to be gone. Everyone else on the map by the time Snatty's in a spot.
You're like a level behind, almost a level and a half. You know, the team itself is like 6,000 or something.
It's 2 levels in mid, or 2 levels in jungle. It's 3 levels in mid, Gore. And that's at 1-0 and 2 for Crim, and only 0 and 1 for Tripno. So all the farm around the mid lane has also been controlled. Great Gentlemen are on the Gold Fury. This is a good pull by the Great Gentlemen. This is the type of play that could get you back into the game. Monster Bomber's low. Dark Portal does not secure the objective, but this is something that the Vamps know is going on. You got to get the Gold Fury, and then just everyone's got to survive, but not the case. Tripno gunned down by Crim as Monster Bomber blinks away. Range doesn't quite reach from Crimson. I admire the call, though, Gore. I mean, that is a risky call from the Great Gentlemen, but you're taking that away from the Vamps.
And I'm going to say, as much like Tripno, no ill against you, but that's maybe the most like worthwhile person to have die. They're 4 levels behind. That mid lane means virtually nothing right now. You got your damage out, you got the objective. You're seeing like that's the difference of just 1 level in the jungle. You're seeing what's happening elsewhere. Getting that Gold Fury and trading your mid laner is not necessarily a favorable trade, but getting the Gold Fury at all at least alleviates some of that pressure. Unfortunately, the pressure just gets applied elsewhere, right? I mean, Oath is just sitting on a speed buff and daring someone to walk at him. They walked into the purple buff and dare someone to fight.
Oh no, Snatty doesn't have beads. Can Rimikami wait out the shield? Might not even need to. This is going to be a kill here. Whether it happens alone, which it does. Rimikami on a killing spree now. 3-0-0 on the Bastet solo. And Gore, you know, it is more worthwhile when the mid laner is like support-esque levels and stuff at the moment, right? I mean, you're trading out support.
Literally, there's a bigger gap in mid lane than in support, and so it feels like it's more worthwhile to kill them off.
We at least get a kill onto Quig. That's the question. Yes, and it's Tripno who's able to get one. So the Persephone's starting to catch back up, even just a little bit. His Final Judgment's no good. Oath can do a lot, but not everything. As a 3 versus 1 is not going his way in the mid lane. He will have to waddle on away. Crim, Final Judgment could have made things
interesting.
A little more close. But Oath at 5-0-3, unfortunately not able to 1v3 just yet.
And you know what? This is a good grouping from Great Gentlemen. I like them getting aggressive, do what we've been seeing Vamps do this entire time, try to pull back a little bit. If Dude Man Pro doesn't get that back off, of course, fully calculated, understood the timer, he knew what he was doing, then maybe things get a little more spicy, right? And all of a sudden you're finding a couple of kills for Great Gentlemen. I think this is a good team fight like showcase for them.
Oh my god.
It would look so much better if they were at level with the other team. But when you have a 3-level deficit specifically in solo lane, like this Bastet's just getting to run rampant over on the right-hand side of the map and hasn't really had to join any of these fights. But, you know, Tripno's not able to do as much damage. You had said, you know, Final Judgment, but, like, look how little damage Tripno does.
Oh, he gets evaporated. And that's big from Tripno. Gets a shutdown. That's a 5-0 shutdown that Tripno immediately picks up. So back to base. And a big opportunity to spend up some gold now for Tripno. Snatty continuing to be melted away over in the solo lane. Will not get pulled back by Rimikami this time. But, Gore, you talk about writing a good script for the mid lane. I mean, you don't love being 3 levels down, but a big shutdown. I mean, that's a perfect target for it to go on if you want to close up the gap a little bit.
You can see in the past, like, where that dip was for the Gold Fury. That killing Oath by themselves was almost a similar size dip in the graph as far as how much they were able to get on the back end of that. And realistically, what you have to look at it is I just saw Crimson was ahead one full tier 3 item, and now Tripno has a tier 2. Things like that really make a huge difference.
Dudeman Bro belly flopped on. Aegis well timed. Beads used there as well. All of the CC connecting, but Dudeman Bro has got the Aussie, and he's got a little bit of lifesteal. No chance in a 2v1, but Dudeman Bro able to extend his life. That'll open up the Vamps to rotate back into this lane. Hydrogen dancing back in the Harpy Pit. Crim dashes away. Snatty is here as well. Knockup connects onto the Thoth. Beads and Aegis are both there. Aegis gets used as Crim waiting out the final judgment. Beads on the other end, dashes away. And it looks like it's only going to be Dudeman Bro that ends up falling down. Gore, this is a resurgent Great Gentleman team. They are down 6,000 gold and still choosing to fight in. But it felt like a matter of time before the big damage numbers arrived, and that's Remikami, that's Oath. And the first of those grabs a kill on a Monster Bomb.
And now they can continue to move forward. I mean, Quig doesn't have the ult, so locking him down is going to be difficult, but a good Riptide locks someone into this fight.
Double knockup from Snatty, but there's a root on the other side, and the jump back in is there. Now the double jungler mindset from the Vamps continues to work forward. Remikami has some sustain. As the jump in there, Snatty gets rooted in place, and will end up jumping on away. So, Gore, ends up being a 1-for-1 trade. And again, regardless of the state of this game, I admire the plays that the Great Gentlemen are making happen. Yeah. In a fight like that, every once in a while you'll see Dudeman Bro die, but then the Great Gentlemen just get completely swept as the rest of the Vamps rotate over. It was anything but. It's a 1-for-1 trade.
I would even say because of the state of the game, I'm even more impressed with what Great Gentlemen are able to accomplish. Because like you said, that should have been an easy turnaround. Vamps just come in, slaughter the other side with this amount of gold in their favor, and then they turn around. We see the Primal Fury respawn just as that fight ends. You steal the red buff, steal the purple buff, go get the Primal, boom, you're just even further ahead. And, well, you don't have as much to worry about. Now, all of a sudden, you have to be worried about Great Gentlemen coming in for the fight around the Primal Fury. It's nowhere near as guaranteed an objective for you. Posturing at least onto this side of the map, you have to be worried about it because Monster Bomber, especially with ult available, is a huge threat. Remikami's suddenly not dealing as much damage as you would like, was getting solo kills earlier, still has the 3-level lead, but maybe isn't finding as much, goes for the Caduceus shield, does get more protection online as opposed to damage, and you can really see that shift in where this Bastet has been able to put that pressure onto specifically Snatty.
I think a lot of what needs to happen now for the Vamps. This game is still just fine. They're still very far ahead. A lot of this, though. Crim needing to connect a little bit more of that poke early on. Get some of those health bars a little bit lower. Final Judgment needs to find its target as well. Needing to be careful, though, is Crim around this Primal Fury. No beads or Aegis for the next 30 seconds or so. Dudeman Bro's about to have both actives back up. Crim with none of them still. Belly flopped on, but is able to dash away. So it's an initial disengage from the Vamps, but then the re-engage in on the other side is River's Rebuke. Traps 2 perfectly in place. Snatty, the first target, and the first target will fall. The rest of the Great Gentlemen so low as well, Gore, as a lot of that poke had connected. It looks like the Great Gentleman will disengage.
And I love this. Remikami reads the map. Tripno's trying to run away from the team.
Oh my God.
Hydrogen tries to run away from the team. Neither of them end up in a position where they could stay alive. That's 2 clean kills on the back end of that. I mean, a 3 for 0? Yeah, this should be a free Fury.
Yeah, at some point that type of fight was going to happen. The Great Gentlemen were making good plays, but once the Vamps regrouped and were the ones actually initiating the engagements, the gold lead was felt once again.
It feels like Russian roulette, right? Yeah, they spun the chamber once, they pulled the trigger, they were fine on that fight, things went well. Spun the chamber a second time, they pulled the trigger, they were fine on the second shot. All of a sudden, you're real nervous about what's going to happen next. They go for it the third time, and unfortunately, that's the one that falls apart.
Yep.
And now it's led to so much. When you get the Primal Fury, you get the Invade. It was 3 kills onto 3 important members as well of Great Gentlemen, and then you get a Pyromancer at the very end of it on top of that. So what was, you're looking at just like one item, maybe like a tier 1, tier 2 lead earlier, should really escalate into a lot. You have to look at where the player damage is, and you're not seeing a whole ton from a majority of where the Great Gentlemen are versus, I mean, just Remikami has double the highest damage of Great Gentlemen. And so you have to look at this 4-0-1 and 4-0-4 Bastet and Thoth, respectively, and wonder, why are we not able to kill them? What's going wrong? How can we isolate them to deal with that? Because they're getting way too much done throughout this fight and throughout this game, and you have to shut those down.
Gore, when you kind of take a moment and just I don't know. I don't know if I've seen double 4-level leads in a game in a little while here. Snatty closes it up to 3, but was 19 to 15 a second ago. It is 19 to 15 in the mid lane for Crim up against Tripno. Feels like the Vamps are on easy street at this point. It's a 20-minute game. Certainly strong enough to pull this Fire Giant if you want to try to force a fight. But over on the other side of the map, Oath hunting for Hydrogen. Hydrogen's going to have a hell of a time getting out of this one because there's a lot of gap close there. As Oath will shrug off the ultimate. A decent trade back in from Hydrogen, but you're never going to win that fight. That's a 7-1-4 Erlong Shen. A 4v4 on right, though, starts up, and it looks better over here for the Great Gentleman. But Sada Dragon melted on down. Two-man bro on the other side of the River's Rebuke. Drops a Dark Portal on their head as a double kill is there for the Izanami. And I lied. This fight not going any better for the Great Gentleman.
And that's where that goal difference, I felt it the most in that fight than I think anywhere else. You've got a full Obsidian Shard online for Crimson. He's hitting just harder by metric for everyone in his face. Didn't even want to talk about Rimikami, but he's going to get another kill anyway. Dude Man Bro is who I was going to highlight. It was a Silver Branch option for Hydrogen that was matched by the Wind Demon on the other side. Yeah, they're all dead. It was matched by the Wind Demon on the other side, and I was thinking, okay, this is going to be interesting because you've got maybe a little more heavy hitter from Hydrogen in this fight versus the crits that are going to be coming through for Dude Man Bro. Then he backs and just buys out the Silver Branch bow. Yeah, he just came back and hit impossibly hard that game.
I was wondering if they could end. I mean, there's still 14 and 15 seconds.
If they get killed,
it depends on this, right? Like, how far out do the Great Gentlemen extend? Apparently too far is the answer. Anywhere outside of your Titan is not safe right now for the Great Gentleman. Mid and right Phoenixes will fall. Always have to be careful about over-chasing, Snatty. Be careful, because there's range in the Vamps composition. 22-4 in the kills department. This is a rout in game number 1. As all the respawns are back, but immediately losing your solo laner. Not great on a Titan defense.
Worth mentioning, no one backed after that Fire Giant fight. Like, they got a full deicide and have not gone back just yet. So they should have, a lot of gold in hand. 3K sitting on Rimikami. It's the lowest is 1,600. So maybe Oath wants a little bit more farm to try and back and spend some big bucks, but everybody else has exactly what they want in a position like this. And you're just continuing this onslaught. I mean, now you're looking at 5 towers standing for Vamps. 2 Phoenixes down for Great Gentleman. What, 2.5 minutes left on this power play, and still so much that they're capable of doing. I'd mentioned the Obsidian Shard, but you've now got a Tier 2 book online. You're getting upgraded Belt of the Berserker just now here for Quig. So all of a sudden, these items are flowing through. Every single one of those feels like a win harder in these fights. You didn't have Belt of the Berserker before. That was just the level and gold lead playing into effect. Now you've got something that enhances your damage in these engagements. I think it's going to either be a quickly melted Phoenix or a quickly melted team. Great Gentlemen have to be very cautious with where they fight. That Tier 2, it doesn't exist. Don't even treat it like it exists. Don't fight for it. Don't step up to it.
It's gone already.
You are going to defend only under that Phoenix and probably under the Titan room at this point.
And even then, I don't know if the Titan is feeling much better, but that's where you have to fight to avoid this game from ending. Or maybe a 5 vs 4 feels better. Remikami no good on the ultimate mantle, providing a nice double stun, though. That means Oath is going to rotate on through. Double taunt. Healing not going to get much value because Oath is taking no damage. Sada Dragon has taken way too much, though, on the other hand, and Snatty now will be chased down, rooted in place, 2 for none, as Oath gets a double. Over on the left side of the map, this 3 vs 3 does not feel much better. Still hoping to reach level 20 are both Hydrogen and Tripno. Monster Bomber is left in the River's Rebuke, and he will die alone in the River's Rebuke, and it is the carries that are under-leveled, hoping to save game 1, but I don't think it's going to happen, Gore. I think the Vamps walk in, and they'll take game 1 of the Great Gentleman.
Yeah, that's just so unfortunate. I think if they kill off Rimikami and 2 live on the right-hand side, maybe something different ends up happening and shaking out, but having that turnaround, Oath just being in the perfect spot, it feels like, it just falls apart for them ultimately. And I think that is really well played from Vamps to have a rotation like that, Oath being able to recognize the map play and the state of the game to make a rotation. Rimikami, I want to say being fortunate enough, obviously making the decisions to buy specifically tankier items, because otherwise that Bastet gets melted in a 2-on-1.
Right.
He lives just long enough, to turn that over. And then that's just kind of the final nail in the coffin. I mean, you called it as it was. You get those 2 kills, there's 3 people left to defend against 5 with Fire Giant, it's done.
Yeah, no chance after that trade. The Vamps were so far ahead of this game, even in a 5v5, the Vamps might have been able to walk into the Titan room and just attack the Titan and ended things that way. Vamps take game number 1 convincingly. Felt like everyone on this team was on a rampage at some point in game number 1. Back to the drawing board for the Great Gym, and we'll see what they come up with in game 2 coming up next. Great gentlemen get a lesson on chemistry, team chemistry in game number 1 as the Vamps really were trying to come up with good hydrogen jokes, and that's what
I literally looked up. There's now Google search history on this laptop of me looking up the periodic table so I could make more jokes about, like,
we'll get there.
Chemical names.
We'll get there. Don't worry. We're not going to ham fist them. And you think our sense of humor just shoves stuff in? I mean, no chance. We're going to find some eloquent ways to make chemistry jokes at some point throughout the rest of this set. Point being, though, that this game was rarely left in question. I think that for the Great Gentleman, there are some moments where even at a big deficit, it's a Gold Fury pull, it's a fight that goes 1-for-1, things like that. There are moments in this game where the Great Gentleman, I think, can say, all right, well, maybe next time we play it this way and we have these good team fights. Gore, from the onset of this game, though, Remikami and Oath, kind of this dual high damage output right side of the map, would just not let the Great Gentleman be. It's Remikami and solo. Once he got to solo potential, Snatty just never had a good time.
Yeah, if you see a Bastet in the game, whether it's solo or not, I don't care what position it's in, if the highlight reel comes up afterward and it says 10.0, something went wrong, and it went wrong real fast, and there was a lot of control. I think we got to see, like you said, Remikami controlling that right-hand side so well that even though I think Snatty had a better teamfight potential late game, it just never got to come to fruition because, like, I think you had highlighted, there was like a 3.5 level lead in terms of the Bastet versus the Nike. And then Oath was just problematic, I think, to say the least. Granted, 6.5 KDA maybe doesn't sound as impressive. Oh, yeah, no, 10.0. But realistically, it was Oath who did the majority of the heavy lifting early on. Like, half the lead this team got was because Oath was like 5-0 or 6-0 at one point.
I also think Oath's KDA is actually, I think it was just a straight up 12 or something closer to that. Remember, he died into the fountain because he.
Oh right, he did.
So like, I think true actual deaths in game, there was only one for Oath, and I think it's what, 1 point in the KDA for a kill, half for an assist. So I don't know. Looking at 12 or 13 or something like that for Oath in reality by the end of this game. So Oath puts on an amazing game, 21,000 and 25,000 damage for Oath and Remikami respectively, which, you know, is almost more than everyone else, 3 members put together of the Great Gentleman. This is just your classic steamroll style game. And I think it's perfectly written for the Vamps with the style of picks that they brought to the table. You give Oath something like an Erlang Shen, you put Mannequin Scepter on it. That's what you hope for. I mean, that's best case scenario for early on in this game. Every single lane gets impacted, and no one from the Vamps ends up looking back. And so, Gore, if you're the Great Gentleman now, and you look at strategy for picks and bans for Game 2, you're just hoping to slow down the early game, it feels like.
Yeah, realistically, if you could just stop Oath for like 2 more minutes, then theoretically you're going to be in a much more comfortable spot. I mean, we were talking about it, what was it, 8 minutes in, 4-0 was Oath. He was on every single lane. It was something that we got to see a lot more active. This Erlang Shen can get active at level 2. The Nemesis couldn't. So either pick something that matches that pace or absolutely strip it away to make sure that you can at least slow it down.
Right. Or pick something that's better at surviving against
or take the Erlang for yourself.
Yeah. A lot of options. Let's see which the Great Gentleman pick here. Picks and bans for Game 2, starting off right here and right now. So Erlang Shen is the hot topic. Bastet, I think, needs to be thrown into that conversation as well. Great Gentlemen throw themselves a bit of a bone here. They're going to be in the first pick slot. So if the Bastet or the Erlang Shen is what the doctor ordered, you'll be able to deliver it to yourself with one of those first couple of picks. Agni's still going to get banned out here, Gore. I'd be surprised, admittedly, although difference between first pick and second pick being what it is. I'd be surprised if we go complete run back here of picks and bans, but the Thoth going to be a big difference here. Crimson's not going to get that one back.
You're impossible to break right now. You're in the zone. I was trying to show him my periodic table I have up, and it didn't bring anything.
Yeah, I want to make... Yeah, but the context of that, if I'm talking about, picks and bans, I'm looking at the periodic table.
That's what a break is, Dave.
Right.
I'm trying to break you.
Yeah, I guess that's
You're
true.
too professional for it.
Yeah, no,
hey, you know what? I'll talk.
I feel like I'm the easiest person on the team to break. I'm breaking right now.
Yeah, and I failed. Either way, Thoth getting banned out, like you said, a huge deal. I don't know if it's as big a deal as the Bastet being gone. Bastet has been a notorious first pick over the last couple of weeks, has been a phenomenal solo laner. Whether it's full damage, whether it's a little bit of hybrid like we saw last game, she just brings way too much to the table, it feels like, to deal with early on. If you bring a warrior into the lane, you're probably not going to have a great time. Maybe if it's Amma, maybe if it's Bologna, you'll be able to match up okay. But even then, you're taking a lot of damage in the process. And then if you go the other way, if you bring an Assassin, well, they don't do as much as Bastet's going to be able to do, and they're not going to be able to match up to her late game as well. So realistically, I love that is a ban. Everything else outside of the E-set feels relatively meta compared to last time, but even E-set, at least against this team, makes a lot of sense.
Bacchus and Kabrakan hovered by the Vamps this time. And so again, even if it's not the Erlang Shen Bastet combo for the Vamps,
wow.
Gore, there's still early pressure here, depending on where those two picks land. Bacchus likely support, but there's still jungle or solo possibility for this Cabrakan. If it's in the jungle, that's still something Oath can make work early and throughout the game, depending on where some of that CC connects. Chiron could be a good alternative when it comes to disengage, cleanse, things like that. And of course with Centaurus, give you the ability to kind of keep yourself in a fight for a moment. Maybe some good answers here from the great gentleman.
So we had said to try and go early game. There's still no Erlong, and honestly, with what we've seen out of Cabrakan, this is probably going to be jungle. I would argue they've done maybe the opposite. Like, RDO can get kind of hands-on early-ish, but not like super early on. Tiamat can be present early on, but not anywhere near as well as some of the other mid laners. Chiron can kind of get his hands on the wheel early, but realistically, it feels like Great Gentlemen have kind of really stylized themselves now, once again, into a team fight. When I see the Bacchus, I see Cabrakan, I see Medusa. I know a duo lane that's going to be getting the Frenzy. They're going to be popping it super early. They're going to go for either a kill or at least the wave clear super fast. And a Cabrakan in the jungle who's going to be able to sit on most people. Luckily, Tiamat has, you know, a good escape, good survivability, good peel, pretty tanky health bar in and of itself, so Cabrakan might not have enough damage to find the kill there. But it still feels like a bullying top 3 here for VAMPS.
Well, it does. Won't be the Erlong Shen, but that also, you know, with the ban there for the Great Gentleman, I think that lends itself into maybe the Great Gentleman not convinced that this Cabrakan is 100% out of the jungle, so still maybe thinking that there could be a solo lane Cabrakan for Remikami. With the Erlong Shen banned by the Great Gentleman. Giannis also follows. That means Merlin will end up being the pick here. Kali is the pick, though, Gore, for the Great Gentleman. And so, again, if you're thinking about early game, and that's really where the Vamps won in game 1. Not that I mean, I think we've been proven that Kali, you know, has scrap potential early on. Obviously, you want to get the destruction online to really feel like you can just jump in and do whatever. But those first few levels maybe need some farm, and so still an opportunity for the Vamps with what they've drafted to get aggressive early in this game. And I'm talking early, like first couple of levels.
It's that really weird balance between I've seen Scream get way too many kills as Kali at level 3 to say it's not intrinsically like an early game god. Like, she can do stuff early on. In the right hands, the right, you know, decision making and capabilities, she's going to be able to get the damage out there. Maybe needs a little bit of help. And we'll see if she gets that help this time around. But realistically, I think this is actually better for them. And, you know, we can look at this as the game goes on. But Cabrakan and Kali, I think, can have similar scaling. They can both start a fight early on, but they feel a little bit better after they get some items under their belt. Horus, I think, is going to help give this duo lane some pressure to alleviate the Bacchus Medusa.
I wonder where this Cabrakan and Camazotz end up going. I still think there's an opportunity for both of them to flip-flop around. Vamps versus the Great Gentleman. Game 2. Can the Vamps qualify to the North American SCC right here and right now? We will wait and find out. Remikami, Cabrakan solo lane. That'll put Oath on Camazotz out of the jungle. And we will see if that early pressure does end up connecting a little bit over here on the right.
Outside of, like layers? When was the last time we talked about Camazott's jungle? Like that, it just doesn't come up as often anymore. Then again, same thing can be said for pretty much anybody and Cabrakan solo. Like, when was the last time we saw Cabrakan go into the solo lane? I think something that is impressive and fun to watch, but it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, up against Snatty, I don't think he has many worries, but I don't know if there's a whole lot of kill potential. A lot of what Oath was able to do last game was get kills in every single lane. I think Snatty's going to be just fine. I think Oath, admittedly, scales way better in this game throughout the duration of it than what we're going to see out of the Kali on the other side. I was thinking if it's Cabrakan jungle, then that at least matches pace because he's not going to be super aggressive early, or at least even if he is, it's something that Kali could match. But this time around, I think it opens up a conversation. He's much better at sticking to the Tiamat, much better at sticking, well, to anybody, really. And so I think there's going to be a lot more fun to watch of what Oath can bring to the table on this Camazotz, and I think he's going to be able to play just as aggressive. Maybe not find as many kills, but at least just as aggressive as he did last time.
It feels like early clear, though. I mean, if you're looking at 2v2 in solo, I mean, just because of Snatty almost, should be able to whittle down that wave just a little bit quicker than what Remikami and Oath are able to do. So keep your eyes on both those health bars, Gore. So early pressure here for Great Gentleman. It's the double blink for the Vamps if you're looking at that 2v2. Blink for both Remikami and Oath, so that sudden engage will be there. Belt does get used by Quig. Monster Bomber has blink over on the other side for the Horus. And so early lane pressure ceded over to the Vamps, but Hydrogen and Monster Bomb are able to withstand that initial onslaught. But as this lane goes on, I think that's where the sort of the ebbs and flows, things like that, could make a difference. But with the Blink Core, maybe more onus on Monster Bomber to get aggressive. Hydrogen has to dash away. Last couple of autos are not there. Are the body blocks good enough? No, they're not. And Monster Bomber also will dash away. And that's just creative pathing from Quig to catch the duo lane of Great Gentleman off guard.
I really like, and the more I sit on it, I think the more I like it, Great Gentleman's draft as a whole. Because if you look at what Snatty's going to be able to do, it at least keeps a little bit of control under Remikami, and theoretically, Artio transitions well into the late game. This entire solo lane conversation is going to be one that's very interesting because they provide similar things late game, good CC, good control, but they do it in completely different ways, and Cabrakan, I think, has a little more power behind his punch when he connects on those, especially if it gets to the like squishies, the back lines. But realistically, I think that you've got a good pick in this Kali because you've got a team that can hold its own, not necessarily fall super far behind, so she's going to be able to get her items online and start the fight. And then even more so over here, Hydrogen as well as Monster Bomber have combined here in a double physical lane, but they've got decent healing from both of them that is going to be able to alleviate some of that pressure. If they do take too much damage, then they'll at least be able to deal with it the good old-fashioned way. But you also have technically a cleanse there for Hydrogen, maybe not going to come up as often as you would like, but something that could be good against the Bacchus. And while Medusa and Bacchus can get aggressive and should control the lane like we've seen so far, it's not as much of a given as it was before. There's good counters from what this Horus can bring. If Bacchus jumps in, it's not guaranteed that he's going to get this damage off or that he's going to get a belch off because you can just stun him out of it. And I think that Monster Bomber's presence here is going to open up a lot more opportunities to at least, again, make this go neutral for Great Gentleman early on.
Yeah, Gore, I think I'm with you. I'm at least buying the Great Gentleman having a much closer game two. I'm buying that stock more than I was in game one, just based off compositions. And I think Great Gentleman, again, showed moments that were good enough in game one that if the gold lead wasn't like 6,000, that the play and the decision-making in some instances in game one, not all, because it was sort of an outplay in every facet of the game.
Yeah.
But there were still those moments, despite a 6,000 gold deficit, where Great Gentleman still raised some eyebrows. And you look at the Kali, it's going to be scaling there, of course. Tiamat scales very well later on. Big damage numbers there as an ultimate goes down from Quig. No good. That's setting up for a kill, though. Remikami is low on the wrong side of this lane as well. Could it be a solo kill? Yes, it is, but this time it's Snatty grabbing first blood as the Cabrakan just does a little bit too much.
And I think, you know, I had highlighted it earlier. Remikami and what we're going to see out of this RDO as time goes on, very similar, I think, overall, like, if you just, like, high-level it, what they bring. But Snatty's got Cripple Field, Snatty's got Healing, Snatty's got Roots at a range. Snatty's got a lot that's really good for Snatty, and Remikami has to be in there for a ton of his engagement. And so outside of the walls, which admittedly still are super close by, I think Snatty's got the upper hand when it comes to when you're and how you're going to apply the CC. I do want to see Remikami continue the fight, though. I think that the damage numbers are going to skew in favor of Remikami while the CC skews in favor of Snatty. And those are going to be where you find this balancing point. He's already gone for a Stone of Binding. You're going to have a little bit of Prot Shred whenever you go in for some stuns. And I think that's a huge deal.
And the two-man rotation help out Remikami. Snatty's taking no damage. After all this, Snatty finally going to get taken low. But the dash away from the RDO, good enough. Bat out of hell. Has got to capitalize on this one. Yes, but Quig took some damage from Sada Dragon in the meantime. Destruction is out. Sada's actually taken low as well. So if there was a redive, if Oath was able to hold on to that bat out of hell, you're looking at a 2-kill swing there. But a good enough job from Snatty Gore to survive. And Sada Dragon in on some peel after Quig took a tower shot or two too many. And the Great Gentlemen do lose one, but far from backbreaking on the right.
Yeah, I mean, you lose Snatty, but they waste 2 ults just chasing you down, trying to kill you off. And honestly, if they hadn't had to use those, then Sada Dragon goes down as well. So admittedly, you kind of save your teammate inadvertently. Just saving yourself keeps him alive. And now this Kali's in a not comfortable position, but again, steals away the blue buff, has been getting some decent farm, has the Crusher online, so I think that Sada Dragon can fight. Maybe not as adept as Oath will.
Uh-oh. Dude, man, bro. Oh, one more tick is all we needed, but won't get it as Hydrogen.
Ow.
Sustains up. Yeah, I was right, Gore. Hydrogen didn't have the ultimate for that fight. Did have beads. Dude Man Bro does 99.99% of the damage, but it's that last 0.01 that'll get you. Hydrogen survives. And Dude Man Bro at least able to stick around, farm up one more wave. So Hydrogen having to leave lane, lose purple buff as well, you'd think. But a little rotation over from Tripno. Yes, purple buff does end up going down. Oath was there as insurance anyway, but that means there's going to be some pressure building up on right. Much more active this game from Sada Dragon, even if it's not kills. More active. The ability to steal away some of these buffs was not there in game 1. A much better look for the Great Gentleman in the first 7 minutes of this one.
I don't even think Sada Dragon got a majority of their own buffs last game. I mean, it just didn't happen for them. This is something you got to be worried about if you're Hydrogen. Really good dash to get out of the Intoxicate, but look, there's 4 people here.
Yeah, again, another high commitment tower dive as long as Centaurus doesn't find that last bit of damage. That'll be a kill for Oath, but there's a teleport over from Snatty. And on the run are the Vamps. Low health on both Oath and Quig. Dash in from Monster Bomber, connects onto the support. Is he just going to be the sacrificial lamb in this one? Root on the other side, yes! Quig surviving the DOT on the other end, but now it's a tier 1 tower. The unofficial 4th man, the unofficial 5th man on this side of the map for the Vamps, and everyone is going to get out of this one. Sada Dragon has destruction, but they do not want to dive. Unreal. Dude Man Bro, Quig, and Oath, both with sub-half HP and almost no mana, and Great Gentlemen are not able to get one.
I mean, you almost have to say comedy of errors, right? Like, it feels like every single time they get aggressive, every single time they go for a fight, and try to re-engage, the one person they get is the one person who has enough health to survive whatever they threw out. I mean, Quig manages to get through that route, no problem. Dude Man Bro gets aggressive and kind of tags out for Quig. Oath is already low from the tower dive earlier, and then when they finally have 3 people low, you blink forward, you're Sada Dragon, and you stun Crimson, who's full health, right? It just ends up feeling like this awkward amalgamation of aggression from Great Gentlemen, where unfortunately every target they had was just not the one they wanted. And that's how things get out of hand this game, right? It's not going to be Oath is 4-0, he's killing everybody in your lane. They get out of hand this game when you can freely tier 1 tower dive 4 people, or 4 people tower dive 1 guy on your side. Hydrogen was that one guy. And then they get away from that fight without having to really worry about too much other than their health bars.
Still feel like it feels like the Vamps are the ones asking the questions right now.
Yeah.
Great Gentlemen have replied to some pretty well, but still haven't flipped the interview around over the last couple of minutes. Hydrogen, despite being even in levels with Dude Man Bro, now level 10 for Dude Man Bro to Hydrogen's 9. Feels like this Chiron has been on the back foot up against Medusa. Dude Man Bro gets a strong pick here. Sada Dragon's low.
No. Really?
Yeah! The belly flop Intoxicate would have gotten that, right?
Yeah, yes. Like 100% yes. That should have.
And Sada wouldn't have been able to go into the destruction? I don't maybe Quig is just assuming destruction was going to come out. Snatty unfortunately doesn't have destruction, but does have the tower hitting Remikami. Oh no, but Remikami lives. And another tower dive happens here, Gore. I think all of these kills have been tower dives for the Vamps.
Yeah.
And they've all been successful.
I'm replaying that moment. I feel, so Quig goes into that. I know exactly what it is, and it's something like this, right? If destruction is unavailable here, you feel so much better, and I think he was trying to bait it out earlier, but unfortunately didn't get it. And we see, hey, if you had just ulted, you would have gotten the kill. Now you have to worry about Sada Dragon re-engaging. Luckily, your team's good at disengaging and getting out of here. But I like this play from Boris.
Yeah, but Monster Bomber's good at re-engaging and getting back in. Oath does not have Bat Out of Hell, and that one is simple for the Great Gentleman. Now the Great Gentleman starting to pose some questions to the Vamps. Should be a 2-kill swing, and both of them go to the jungler, starting to spin up the Kali in the first 10 minutes. And both junglers now, Gore, the ones holding the power. So Charged Bow and Crusher for Sada Dragon. Jotun's Wrath into something else in the Mace Tree for Oath. Both junglers in a strong spot here. Brawler's Beatstick ends up being the item. It should be a good old-fashioned jungle battle over the next couple of minutes.
And I love that re-engage. Again, if Quig gets that destruction where he thinks he's going to get the destruction instead of potentially just missing out on a kill, all of a sudden, Kali's not able to do that, right? You stay alive there because you don't get knocked up, because you do manage to survive. Destruction doesn't do its, oh, hey, I'm immune to death thing. You just use it for some CC immunity and the capabilities of chasing people down, or being able to turn around and run back into it without worrying about your own health bar. And then you mentioned it, but Monster Bomber's really good at closing the gap. Everything else has been tower dies. They're going for Snatty again.
Yeah, the wall's doing most of the work here. Brawler's beat stick now completed for Oath. That'll assist. Last bit of damage there, and the tick will finally put Snatty down. The right side of the map.
Snatty, man.
I know, the right side of the map has just been a graveyard. 3 of the kills of the 4 that the Vamps have been onto Snatty. And all of them have been under or very close to underneath the tier 1 tower on right. I mean, Snatty is overextended at the start of that chase, but maybe you're assuming Oath isn't just immediately going to come back to the right side of the map. Tier 1 tower on right is about to go down, but in a way where Game 1 gore was spread out evenly over the map, feels like the right side has gotten all the emphasis this time.
And this is where things can get very catastrophic, right? Again, it's small leads at this point, nothing massive, but being able to, especially with a Merlin on your team, burn down any objective that stands in your way. You've got, we don't highlight it too often, but Intoxicate, I think, is a really great confirmation ult if you really, really need to around an objective. And now Oath is getting aggressive.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like this fight anymore.
That was a lot of damage onto Oath in the initial jump in. I think Oath maybe caught just a bit off guard. Monster Bomber is going to drop into the backline, but Monster Bomber alone. Alone no further, though, as Sada Dragon closes the gap, and yet again, the jungle tug-of-war continues. It's the Kali now on a killing spree, but Oath has died twice, where Sada Dragon has not. Destruction there, but that's big damage from Remikami in the mid lane. Quig with a big engage on the Intoxicate. The walls trap in 3 gore, but Krim just doesn't have the buttons to follow up on the damage. It's a great fight for the Great Gentleman. But only 2 kills end up falling.
And ultimately, with 2 kills going their way, especially not dropping anybody in the process, I think this is a huge deal for Great Gentlemen. I think if that Gold Fury goes uncontested, or even if they just kill Oath, it still feels very worthwhile for Vamps to be able to pick it up, especially considering Oath is, again, just a little bit behind. You'd like him to get the gold, like him to get more experience, but you're not losing somebody that is going to be as big for your team. I mean, it's a 2-level lead for Crimson, right? He's going to be worth a little bit more. The bounty is going to exist there. And so you do manage to pull some back. You keep yourselves within a very easy shootable range of where Vamps are in terms of a lead. And so far, you've just showcased that this Kali is absolutely nuts. I mean, they have not been able to lock down Sada Dragon anywhere near enough to make it worthwhile for the dive they keep committing.
Gore, look at so the Vamps are ahead in gold by 2,500. 1,500 of that is in the mid lane. Krim is a 1.5k up over Tripno in the net worth charts. So 1,000 of the gold differential is spread out over the other 4 members of the Vamps. I call it 250 here or there across the board. Krim has done nothing but farm this game. 000s for Krim, 2 levels ahead. Tripno has 3 assists. Krim has just farmed better to the tune of 1,500 gold of the 2,500 gold lead that the Vamps have. Feels like the moment Krim is able to get involved in one of these fights, 1.5k worth of gold is going to feel hefty from a Merlin. Happening again to Snatty, by the way. Brawler's beat stick shred down some of that healing. And goodbye, Snatty, unfortunately, one more time. I say that lacklusterly because you should be expecting that to happen every single time at this point. This is new, though. A dive onto Hydrogen, and Centaurus, no good at saving his life. Quig is the one who picks up the kill. And we're still fighting over on right. Remikami is low here. Sada Dragon not able to finish it, but Monster Bomber does.
And this is just a good rotation. Again, Tripno comes over, gets his hand on a kill. Maybe not going to be able to chase this down. But you had mentioned it, and this is perfect. Look at the rest of the map. You get a tier 1 and a kill if you are the Vamps, or I'm sorry, if you're Great Gentleman right there. The other side, you've got 3 kills, a tier 1 at least in mid, a tier 1 I believe there in left, now a tier 2 in left as well. I mean, that's a very good amount of gold going straight into your pockets. You're going to be able to back. And Crimson is still just farming. I love this. This is the best Shinto impression I've seen from anybody else. There's no reason he should be 3 levels up. He's got no kills, no assists. He's just vibing on the map, but he's getting so much for it. Yep. And they don't have a lot of ways to shut him down. I mean, this Merlin's been playing very safe. He's been getting decent damage out there. Maybe isn't the most that you could have in the world, but it at least has showcased that he exists in the map. Where is he on these damage charts? Yeah, see, he's not at the bottom. He's, you know, he's barely above the supports, but he's not at the bottom.
Well, he's not effectively the same that Tripno has, right? I mean, 300 damage behind at this point is you know, some poke in lane, maybe. But look at the state of the build. It was 1.5k at the start of my rant about how far Crim is ahead without fighting. It was two full 1,000 ahead by the end of that statement. You know, I mean, getting back to right around that. 8.5k for Tripno, 10.5k for Crim, and that's just farm.
That's criminal.
Yeah, it is. Yep, no. No, that lands, Score. That lands. But the state of the builds couldn't be more different right now. It is the same 2 items, Deso plus Divine Ruin to start.
Yeah.
And not only does Crim have a full Charon's coin over Tripno, then the uncompleted item that these two have in common, Crim is also ahead in that department as well. A tier 2 book to a tier 1 of Tripno. I mean, this is a hefty difference in the mid lane as far as gold and in the state of these builds, and Crim is going to round this corner and maybe be able to showcase some of that gold lead around this Fire Giant that gets picked up but then dropped by the Great Gentleman.
We've got someone to blame here, depending on if this fight goes out. Twig wants to jump back in. I don't know if there's a lot to be chased down here. This is going to get some damage. Snatty might get caught out, and that might be the worst case scenario. Good walls again from Rimakami. But that is I think that is a good start up. Oh no, they're going hi-rez in, Dave. They won the fight.
Yeah, they want to, Gore. I don't think they should, though. Hydrogen.
Not anymore.
Deleted.
Oh, no.
Monster Bomber stunned.
No.
Oath gets a double. And finally, a couple of assists for Crim in this one. Tripno and Side Dragon, the last 2 left on the map. And Gore, you've got a Frenzy, and you've got a Merlin with a absurd build for 18 minutes in. Should be an easy FG over to the Vamps.
I like where Sata Dragon is, though. Him, Tripno. Well, okay, maybe not Tripno so much anymore. I like the idea. Maybe you can get a kill here, but no, yeah. So that's going to be the full-on Dia side. Look, I'm going to go back to the beginning of that. I'm going to give the compliments where it's due, and I am going to throw the blame at exactly one player here. Great Gentleman, I think that is a good call to go for that Fire Giant. Let's face it. This game, despite how even the fights have been going, the gold lead has been absolutely massively in favor of VAMPS. The map control has been massively in favor of VAMPS. So you got to start looking for something else, right? 18 minutes in, you don't have the burn, but you have the damage. Let's see if we can do it. They start up the Fire Giant. And unfortunately for them, there's a single ward that times out 3 seconds later, but Hydrogen walks on just the edge of it. Yep. And it pings right over there. Now, why would Hydrogen be walking in that part of the jungle other than for a Fire Giant? And so that's when we start to see a rotation. Vamps just go to check out the Fire Giant pit, and all of a sudden, it's an easy call for them to start the fight up. We see how that goes for them. It's just a small little moment. And again, by the time Hydrogen and the Fire Giant actually is taking good damage, that ward is despawned. It was literally just that one step in the jungle that makes that difference. And all of a sudden, we're in a world where the Vamps are in control, and they don't seem to have any qualms about it.
Yeah, I don't know why you would. I mean, that was the game-breaking moment, a second ago there. Like, for a while, again, we're talking about this gold lead that Crim had. It felt like a lot of it was just there, and the rest of the map was a couple hundred gold behind here and there for the Great Gentleman. Nothing insurmountable, but if you can jump on Crim, maybe the game is still pretty close, but...
That was Bane breaking Batman's back over his knee.
Right. At this point, the back is broken, and the Great Gentleman need to be doing some sit-ups over the next 10 minutes to get things back to remotely close here. A pair of double kills from Oath improves the jungler to 8-2 and 3. Remember, it's Snatty who has just received all of the pressure, it feels like, this game. On the right side of the map, this RDO has just not been able to operate. With a flat pen there, a little percent pen for Crimson as well, who still hasn't gone back to base. Could complete that Soul Reaver, but going to knock down these towers and open up these Phoenixes, and it seems like the Vamp score on the precipice of qualifying to the North American SEC.
I mean, and they did it so wonderfully. You had highlighted it, but they dive specifically once on left. Now they're doing it again. They pop the Frenzy. This is a great fight.
Could this be the moment that the Vamps waltz their way in? They ballet their way in to the North American SEC. The left side Phoenix down to half HP. Sata Dragon. You need the Kali on the map. Later on in the game, as Oath is 3v1ing underneath the fountain, Monster Bomber falls as well. No Sata Dragon, no Monster Bomber, and maybe only a chance in the loser's bracket of this event for the Great Gentleman to qualify as the Vamps in 2-0 fashion should walk in and complete this game and qualify themselves to the North American SEC.
I don't know. Things are getting
Don't you do it to me, Gore. Don't you do it to me. The VAMPS are qualifying, and they will do it in convincing fashion.
Look, there was some fight back at the very end there, right? They at least made it interesting. They get a couple of kills. Quig's almost dead. They open up a conversation to be had. Hey, they can fight. Unfortunately, it was just a little bit too late for them. I think it goes back to what you were saying, and I was trying to get into it before the VAMPS just decided to end the game.
Yeah.
But realistically, you see a lot of pressure. I think it was like one dive on Snatty at the beginning, and then a dive over on the other side of the map to get rid of Hydrogen. And then from that point forward, there was a lead, and we saw Dude Man Bro take advantage of that. Hydrogen was like 0 and 3 at the end of that. A lot of good control in the dual lane that they never had to worry about. Snatty, on the other hand, was going to be a problem, and so they sat on Snatty throughout that lane phase and just did not let them breathe.
There was just this back and forth early. I think Krim was just one of the most quiet, but standout performance. I mean, you really felt that entire item difference around that Fire Giant fight that effectively ended the game. Krim, despite not the absurd KDA performance, a great just kind of farm and macro game performance, takes game number 2 for the VAMPS and qualifies the VAMPS to the North American SEC. Gore and I will detail exactly how it happened coming up next. And it's a happy St. Patrick's Day indeed to the Vamps, who in 2-0 fashion, convincing 2-0 fashion, will qualify to the North American SEC, the first team to do so far here in Season 9. So congrats to the Vamps, and good luck to the great gentlemen. There's still a loser's bracket run, still 2 more spots in that loser's bracket for the great gentlemen to be able to qualify into. Game 1, Glor, was almost complete destruction by the Vamps. Here in Game 2, we figured that the key would be to stabilize the early game a little bit. The great gentlemen were able to do that. The kills were not out of control by any means. The gold did just get a little bit out of control passively, and that's where the Vamps really took control.
And that's the interesting thing, because there were a lot of really good moments, I think, from Great Gentlemen where they're invading. They're the ones controlling the gold flow. But unfortunately for them, it's just the macro play from Vamps. They controlled on the map what was going to be a problem later on, which is really just read as they killed Snatty a whole bunch of times, and they made it look pretty clean. I mean, this Artio was capable of a lot. We saw what this Artio was able to do, but eventually the lead got, hefty for Rimikami, because Artio just spent a lot of time dead, and Rimikami was able to specifically farm up a whole ton. Gets caught out in a scenario like this. Good walls from Rimikami. Again, it's small plays like that, but that led to a full-on Deicide, which led to a Fire Giant, which just opened up so much. I think, along with that conversation I had mentioned at the end of the game, but the duo lane, they had one help kill from Oath,
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, Dude Man Bro and Quig just control the Chiron and make sure that it doesn't have a lot to do. And you had mentioned this, but this is where the Charon's coin comes into the conversation. Crimson kind of didn't do anything crazy until the end in terms of kills and kill presence. But Crimson farmed a whole ton, had a whole ton of gold, goes 0-0-6. All 6 of those are in the last 3 minutes of gameplay. But it gets a ton of farm. I'm interested to see his GPM is able to level up and have a massive lead over Tripno, despite Tripno being more involved in a lot of these fights. And then when he gets that Charon's coin, what do we start to see? Objective play. All of a sudden, you're Merlin. You already, inherently, from just the flat pin, have a great way to deal with objectives and burn them down. Yeah. Then you get a percent pin. All of a sudden, tanks aren't going to be a big issue for you. Fire Giant gets melted really quickly. I think Crimson plays this game pretty much the way that you would expect a Merlin to. He just coasts and then burns everything in his vision.
Yes, we are giving shout-outs to a 006 Merlin, by the way, because gold per minute, a full 125 or so higher than what Tripno was able to do on the other side. 116 to be exact. And top in the game. And that's just all through farm. And Oath ends this game with 8 or 9 kills, only a couple of deaths. And so it would be expected, I think, that Oath was just the leader in all those categories, but top GPM, top gold, there for Crim, buying those power spike items. Remember, there were points in this game where Crim was just an entire tier 3 item ahead of Tripno on the other side. And so those are the types of moments where you don't see these big kills, but you see these big differences in the gold graph, and Fire Giant happens. This game kind of rolls out of control. But absolute due shout out to Remikami and Oath and what happened over there on the right side.
I think double shout out to Oath, because he was 3 gold per minute behind where Crimson was. Yeah, right. And he was doing a lot more than what Crimson was doing across the map. And so I think that really showcases it. I always mention it, but the metric, if you watch a general SBL game, your supports are going to be in the 490s, and then the winning team is somewhere between 540, 560. Yeah. If they win a little harder, 570s, right? Getting to that 600, you controlled the gold.
Yeah, at 600.
A lot.
And we went beyond. So we were a quarter of the way to 700. Convincing from the Vamps in Game 2, just in slightly different fashion. That is the first team we qualified today into the North American SEC. We've got 3 more teams to qualify into NASCC. Will it be the Sturdy Artisans, the Leoncitos? I don't know. We're going to find that out next. Will it be Samsara versus the Funhammer score? I don't know. We'll find that out later on today. We'll lean into it, take down Sops Time, and qualify to the North American SEC. Couldn't tell you. You got to stick around to the end of the day to find out.
I think the next 2 matches have so many names in them.
I know.
That it is absolutely ridiculous to think that there's a chance, and actually it gets even maybe higher likelihood, that 2 of those teams might not just qualify to what we see. So that's going to be interesting. And the only reason I leave that last one out of there is because Lean Into It has been the surprising factor for me, right? I think they are a team that showcased a lot of talent in week number 1, even though they don't have that same, at least amount of name power. Sops Time has a lot of name power behind them. So that one's going to be a very interesting matchup to see if Lean Into It can lean into what they did last week. I made a lot of those. You can't make that face. Come on. Well, actually, you can.
What was the one mid-game? Because I wasn't looking at you. We were standing up casting on our own TVs.
Crim was like super far ahead, and I said that's criminal.
And I did the like, yeah, well, and then like it nearly went with you, but I just couldn't abide.
I could see the distaste in your mouth, like it sat poorly with you.
It did, but like that's the style of humor that's like.
You
good,
wanted a fine wine, and I gave you PBR.
PBR hits right sometimes, Gore. Just didn't hit right.
That's the college student in you talking. Come on.
Many years removed from that, Gore. I like a nice glass of wine nowadays. I like a VAMPS qualified to the North American SEC. The fan favorites fighting to qualify to the NASCC. Sturdy Artisans versus Leoncitos. Coming up next.